Hey, what's up guys, Will here for GSM Arena. Huawei has just released 3 phones, the P40, P40 Pro, and the P40 Pro Plus. We're going to talk today about the P40 Pro, which we've already had for a while. Although it isn't the highest tier model in the roster, the Pro still brings a bunch of high-end features. Let's see what it has to offer in our full review. Looks-wise, the P40 Pro doesn't break the mold, but it's quite fitting for a modern flagship. It's made from glass with a frame of aluminum, and the squared-off corners help it to stand out a bit from competitors. The back is curved, and although the finish is a bit conservative, it's quite sleek and elegant looking. The major feature here is of course the quad camera setup, which takes up a decent amount of real estate. Of course, even though the P40 Pro is made of glass, you should expect it to be relatively durable, and the phone has full IP68 water and dust protection too. Flipping over to the front, we have the P40 Pro's 6.6-inch curved OLED screen. Its resolution is in between Full HD and QHD at 1200 by 2640 pixels, and the display wraps around the edges of the phone. Up at the top, there is a wide punch hole cutout for the selfie cam and TOF sensor. Also note that there isn't a traditional earpiece for calls. Instead, the sound is generated by vibrations of the screen. The P40 Pro is Huawei's first smartphone with a high refresh rate display. At 90Hz, it's not as fast as the 120Hz you see in the Galaxy S20, but it's enough to make moving elements on the screen appear much smoother. Unlike the S20, you don't have to turn down the resolution to enable the high refresh rate. Content looks great, with deep blacks, great contrast and accurate colors. Max brightness is decent at around 430 nits. You don't get much of a boost in the sun, however. With auto mode on, you'll get up to about 500 nits. The display supports HDR+, however, because of software limitations, you won't be able to get that content via the popular streaming services. Unlocking the phone is done through an optical under-display fingerprint reader. It's larger than before, and among the fastest and most reliable you can get right now. There's also the Face Unlock option, which is quite secure, thanks to the 3D scan provided by the TOF camera. It works even in the dark. For audio, the P40 Pro has a single bottom firing loudspeaker. We would have preferred a stereo setup, but seeing as how there's no traditional earpiece, maybe it isn't possible here. As far as quality goes, this speaker's loudness is good, and mids and highs sound decent, but the lows are a little lacking. Of course, if you want to plug in regular 3.5mm headphones, you'll need to use a USB-C adapter here. Now let's get into the P40 Pro's software limitations, since that's the main caveat to worry about when getting this phone. As you might know, US sanctions on Huawei mean that this phone is missing Google's apps and services, which we're accustomed to here in the West. Instead of Google Maps, you'll need to use an alternative, at least until Huawei comes up with its own maps, which it's developing with TomTom. Replacing the Google Assistant on this phone is Huawei's Celia, which will arrive with an OTA update down the line. For now, saying "Hey Celia" merely activates Hi Voice, which provides a few voice-activated functions. To get extra apps, you'll need to use Huawei's proprietary app gallery. Browsing through it, you'll see that it still has a long way to go with the app catalog, but at least they prioritize getting the popular local apps on board. What apps are missing can often be found on third-party app stores such as Amazon's or APK Pure. You may have to check multiple places for a specific app though. This makes for somewhat of a fragmented experience, but it's something you can learn to live with, especially if you're more tech-savvy. There are other options out there too. For example, you can get most of the apps off of your old phone using the Phone Clone app, but since Google services aren't supported, some might not even work properly. And for those that do work, to keep them updated, you'll still need to rely on the third-party stores. Besides all that though, the phone's interface works well. It's Huawei's EMUI 10.1 based on Android 10, and everything feels smooth and snappy. There aren't really any surprises here. One feature we do like to see is an IR blaster, which allows the P40 Pro to control certain appliances. Pretty convenient. Storage on the P40 Pro is pretty generous, with 256 gigs on board. It is expandable too, but you'd have to use one of Huawei's proprietary nano memory cards. Under the hood of the P40 Pro is a flagship-grade Kirin 990 5G chipset. Compared to the regular Kirin 990, this one has a bit faster processor and, well, that faster 5G connectivity. In CPU benchmarks, the P40 Pro does an excellent job, scoring at the top of the charts as far as Android phones go. GPU-wise, it's not quite at the top, but still flagship-worthy. You should expect awesome gaming performance here, especially since the phone does a great job in managing its thermals. As far as battery life goes, the P40 Pro doesn't disappoint either. It packs a 4200 mAh battery and scored an endurance rating of 94 hours in our proprietary battery tests, regardless of screen refresh rate. Charging speed is quite impressive. The phone comes bundled with a 40-watt charger, and with it we were able to charge the battery from 0 to 80% in just half an hour. There's also support for 27-watt fast wireless charging, and reverse wireless charging through which the phone can charge another device. Now let's move on to the cameras. The P40 Pro's quad camera setup consists of a 50-megapixel main camera, a 40-megapixel ultra-wide cam, a 12-megapixel 5x periscope zoom lens, and a TOF camera. We're gonna do a short overview of the P40 Pro's camera quality here in this video, and we'll have a separate camera review if you want to learn even more. Shots from the main cam come out in 12.5 megapixels, as 4 pixels are combined into one. In daylight, these look excellent, every bit as flagship grade as you'd expect. In fact, during the day, this high quality is preserved across the main, telephoto, and ultra-wide cameras. We're really impressed, especially by the ultra-wide camera. Another category in which the P40 Pro excels is portraits, thanks to the TOF camera. These are among the best we've seen from a smartphone. In low light, the P40 Pro continues to impress from both the main and the ultra-wide cameras. Even without night mode on, these shots really set the bar for what's achievable by a phone at night. In fact, enabling night mode for these actually results in a lower quality, though brighter result. Photos taken with the 5x nighttime zoom are good in quality too, but if you're able to keep the phone stable enough for a few seconds, night mode works wonders in improving the output. Let's not forget selfies. They have excellent quality and are quite consistent thanks to autofocus. As far as video goes, 4K at 30 FPS is great, from all 3 rear cameras. Detail leaves a bit more to be desired, and maybe that's due to the always-on stabilization. The stabilization does work quite well though, and it achieves this smoothness not through just EIS, but some AI processing as well. So that's the Huawei P40 Pro. It really brings basically everything you'd want from a flagship device these days. A good-looking waterproof build, a high refresh rate OLED screen, an awesome chipset, good battery life with fast charging, and some of the best cameras around. The only features I really miss here are stereo speakers, and of course Google services. It is possible to get most of the apps you want up and running, but it's a hassle, and keeping them updated isn't so straightforward. And there are some apps which will never run on this device at all, since they rely on Google services in order to work. If you don't mind making those trade-offs though, then the P40 Pro is worth recommending, as basically everything else about it is awesome. Let's hope that as Huawei's app gallery expands, the software situation for the new Huawei phones gets a bit easier to live with. Thanks for watching guys, stay safe and see you on the next one.